How you doing, everybody? I'm the Eclipse from Team Projectile. It's been a while since I last posted a video, but here we go. As Empyrion Galactic Survival Alpha 8.0 has been released, it's now 8.1 due to some bug fixes. I thought it would be a good time before I start making Season 2 by giving you a little, shall we say, tour of all of the major ships that I have built. And you will recognize one of them during this tour, since we used it at Season 1. So yes, let's talk about the Annihilator ships. So when I first started playing Empyrion Galactic Survival, I always wanted to make a capital ship of my own. I always either took a basic capital ship. If we were to just go here, I would usually take this one as my main capital ship and just use it for the rest of my playthrough. However, I wanted something of my own. I wanted something effective, I wanted something cool, I wanted something devastating. So what I came up with was, well, I took inspiration. I kind of tried to rip off the Imperial class Star Destroyer. If you just take a look at the bridge here, as you can see, it very much resembles a very much resembles. It does look quite like a Star Destroyer. However, that's just the bridge. The rest is just something completely different. Sure, the slope was an inspiration, but the rest is just thinking of my own. Now, of course, I did create a capital ship before this. I used to call it the Eye. It's this. I now have come to call it a Shadow Star for some apparent reason. But yeah, it was too weak. It had like the normal steel blocks, and yeah, if you get shot enough times, they'll be destroyed in like seconds. So yes, what was my thought process of making this? Well, first of all, I wanted every single turret mounted on this ship. Period. I wanted the artillery turrets at the front here, so that I can destroy bases much quicker, well, space station much quicker, and place these pulse lasers along with these thrusters, medium thrusters, and then at the sides here and down below I would also have a bunch of thrusters to help steer the ship around. Now the ship itself wasn't bad, but there were a lot of mistakes. First things first, if we go inside, with the implementation of temperatures, I did not keep these in mind. So if I were to walk here, if you were to look at the temperatures, if I were to stand here, I would be cooked alive at this point. So yeah, did not want that. Now we had these generators. If we were to get close enough, we'll also cook alive. But yeah, with the implementation of temperature, that was mistake number one. Mistake number two was that it couldn't land. It wasn't too heavy. It was quite mobile and it could land just perfectly. I could just install the landing gear, but I didn't want to at the time. But yeah, with the hangar over here, it would simply be impossible to place any hover vessels inside of here. And then mistake number 3 was one that I found out a little bit too late. So if I were to sit here and fire the pulse lasers, it's not loaded right now, but if I were to fire the pulse lasers, I would instead, well, the animation would just continue on, but the actual shot would land here. Because here's how it works. When I aim, you see the crosshair, it aims at the turret in front of me. And the actual fire thing starts like from around here-ish, where I'm currently standing. So from here, it shoots really fast till here and then it stops. So it made these very much useless. And yeah, and there wasn't a lot of space for my ship. Sure, there was quite a bit of space now that we look at it, but it wasn't enough in my opinion, and I wanted to have hover vessels. So I took the basics of the ship, the slopes, the pulse lasers, the turrets, and I went on to create the Mark II of the Annihilator series. Now I stacked everything, so maximum pulse lasers, sorry for the sniffing, maximum rocket launches, the artillery turrets at the sides on this one, so that we can safely fire all of these without any problems. Then we would have a large hangar with large hangar doors for any and all small vessels to come through. And then we would have a nice little entrance for all the hover vessels to go in, go up and be neatly stored. Now that was a great idea, and I also eliminated the need of a turret underneath, and I placed a bunch of landing gears underneath so that I could land. A great idea. I mean, it had a bunch of floors. Here's floor number 1. Here's like the engine room with the fuel cells, the generators, the oxygen, offline protection, even gravity generators. Here we also have a bunch of constructors. Everything made sense. And yeah, this was floor 2, the hangar. Then floor 3, the residence area. Then floor 4, the bridge. It made all sense, and it just looked absolutely amazing in my opinion, even though this was just way too wide. But hey, it worked, because having a 10 by 5 hangar door was just brilliant in my opinion. But then I started landing this thing on a planet, and I could not take off. So yeah, that taught me a lesson in over-engineering, the same mistake that the Nazis made that cost them the war. So I needed a different approach. I needed a different way of getting a proper annihilator, a proper functional annihilator that would do its job, be decently armored, have a hangar, house hover vessels inside, but not be as large as it was. Okay? That's when I made the Mark III. This is the ship that you saw in Season 1, if you can remember this. I love this ship, but I made similar mistakes from the Mark I. First of all, the thrusters, so this is just one layer. There wasn't a whole lot of space for all of the small vessels, and if you have large small vessels, there would just be zero space. However, there was plenty ammo, had plenty of guns, plenty of turrets. Unfortunately, though, all of the turrets were placed like at the top and at the bottom. It was okay, but it certainly wasn't perfect, and at times a bit vulnerable, especially here, because if we were to go inside, directly behind it would be the core. So if this were to blow up, and the block behind it were to blow up, this ship would simply be rendered destroyed, actually. So I wanted to redesign this ship, because I was quite satisfied with it, but also want to armor it up a bit more and make it better slightly. So now we head over to the current capital ship that I like to use the most, and that's the Mark IV. And as you can see, the thrusters on the back are the only thrusters visible right now, because all of the ones that cause it to go up and down and backwards and left and right, they are all inside of the ship. So as you can see, there's a much larger hangar. It's updated to 8.0 with the repair bay. Then we have the inside here, and also, sure, this is a bit vulnerable to being destroyed, but it would have to go through a whole lot of stuff and then hit the core here. So I don't think that this ship will go down that easily, and I can always change it slightly by moving some of these components like to here, and then adding a number of layers of combat steel. So yeah, with that, you enter the hangar through a 13x7 door, so there will be plenty of space for many ships. It's light enough to land on any planet. Hover vessels can enter. Once you enter, you can refill your oxygen, heal up if you need to. And then you have the food, the storage, the constructors. I might have to spin these a little bit because, well, texture changes. Then we have the bridge, which gives us a very nice look at the planet, allowing us to look left, right, and center. However, I came up with a new system that when I want to control the turrets manually, I would have to know which one I'd like to fire. So if, for example, if I wanted to control this turret, this plasma turret, I would normally have to go through each of them until I have the right one. With this system, that's no longer the case. So what I do, if we go to devices and go to turrets, here we go, you would see that these have 3 letters before the actual name. And what do they mean? Well, I would basically describe the position of the turret. Sorry about that. Yeah, the position of the turret through 3 letters. The order of such is the front or the back, the top or the bottom, and then the left or the right. And how do I solve this? Well, I would choose the F for front, B for back and bottom, T for top, L for left, and R for right. So if we were to take a look at one of the turrets, let's say I want to control the artillery turret. It's at the front, it's at the center. I have to add the C, but C basically means center. And on the right, so yeah, the Z value is basically the front, the height value is the center because it's at the middle, and then the X value is basically the right. So yeah, I kind of go with Z, which is depth, the Y, which is the height, and X, which is the width. So I can basically tell that this is the back top right for the rocket turret. And if I go here, back top right. So that system allows me and other users to basically properly control the ship, and if they want to use the turrets manually, that will be more than possible. So yes, this became my main ship for a good while. Well, it basically became the ship that I want to use forever, really. It's highly armored, it's well armed, and it has plenty enough space for plenty of small vessels and hover vessels. But then I wanted to increase the size. I wanted to try and get the size of this, but prevent myself from over engineering it, allowing it to actually just at least hover and take off from a planet, be super deadly, but also have plenty of space for loads of small vessels. This is where I made the Super Annihilator. This is my pride and joy. This is the final ship of the series. And it's not designed to land because it's just too big. So yeah, I can land this on flat surfaces, but it doesn't have any landing gear. So yes, hover vessels could enter, but my main focus was to store as much as humanly possible whilst keeping this ship as beautiful as possible. So first thing I did was to calculate this size, the length of this ship and the width of this ship, and multiply it and just started testing. Now I want to go for like more than 100 blocks long. However, capital ships can only go 100 blocks as a maximum. So I simply decided to go around 90 blocks long. And I don't remember how wide I made it eventually. But I simply decided to start from the tip right there and work my way out until I reached the length that I wanted. And this is what it became. With enough paint jobs, with the combat steel, etc. I had basically everything that I could ask for. And even so, if I, for example, destroyed a ship, I can use these multi-turrets to salvage the parts and, you know, have spare parts for the case when my ship gets heavily damaged, for example, or when I want to make new stuff. So yes, the bottom floor of this ship is the first hangar, the main hangar. As you can see, there's loads and loads of space. Like if we were to take this ship, out of my head, I'm sure that we can hit 20 with this, which is great. Now we have an updated hangar, repair bay. And yeah, if this wasn't enough, there's also a second level. Now this was meant to also be like the first floor, but due to complications there and vulnerabilities, I decided to move some parts here. Now it's not inherently bad. I mean, they do look quite good in my opinion, and I have plenty of fuel to go with. These generators allow me to use walnut power. Then we have additional fuel tanks, and then a whole lot of thrusters here. Now, as you might have noticed, it started to lag quite badly, and that's true, because well, there's a whole lot of them activated at the moment. Behind here though, there's a whole bunch of oxygen tanks. This is where I store my oxygen. Then we have thrusters that go left, right, up and down. And these basically make sure that I can maneuver the ship decently well and prevent me from crashing into the planet. So yeah, the top floor is the bridge, because I didn't want any residents or whatever. We just have a whole bunch of stuff, a whole bunch of passenger seats divided here. Captain's seat as the cockpit here. And then a medical station and O2 stations here, so that people can refill their oxygen should there be a hole in here. I also designed the ship to basically not be without oxygen entirely. So for example, if there would be a hole like right here, there would be no oxygen here, but there would be oxygen here and here. Simply because I've designed these doors. Well, these doors are airtight, and the oxygen outlets, they're basically both emitting oxygen inside of the elevator as well as outside the elevator. So should anything happen, there's always a way to prevent everyone from suffocating. So yes, and then we have a whole bunch of constructors, cargo, etc. So that allowed me to have a massive ship whilst it does everything that I wanted to, even though I did have to eliminate the ability to have hover vessels and the ability to land, whilst I could just add it, but I chose not to. And have it be just massive, devastating, beautiful as well, in my opinion. And yeah, I think I did a pretty good job. Now there are other ships that I've worked on. For example, when I was designing, well, after I've made the Mark III, I made the Decimator Mark 1, which is this. This was meant to be the Annihilator Mark 4, but I called it the Decimator Mark 1 because I wasn't too happy with it. It basically is a two-way capital ship. And what do I mean by that? Well, when we go inside and go up the elevator, you can control the vessel from here, but also from the other side. And that's because I have a drill here and a multi-tool here, multi-turret here, and the artillery turrets right here. But yeah, there were some issues. For example, the thrusters were exposed again, just like I did with the Mark III Annihilator. And yeah, there was some turrets that needed to go somewhere, and yeah, I just didn't like it. Whilst I think it's a great ship, don't get me wrong, it does have its flaws, and its issues. So that's when I decided to make the Mark IV that you just saw. Earlier this week, I created the Scavenger, which, while it's heavily armored, it's not meant for large assaults. It's just meant to salvage ships and drill into asteroids. So basically, it's a mining ship. Nothing too special. It's built to not allow any small vessels inside, and that's basically it. And then we also have the Mauler, and this ship was just mainly designed for planetary bombardment. So if we were to go over there real quick, just ignore those. Those are, well, that one's from the workshop, and that one was a failed experiment. But the Mauler here has all the turrets that can be fired on planetary surfaces. And we have the entrance, the only flaw here is just this. The engine compartment, yeah, it's just the space below, and it's just inaccessible anywhere. And yeah, you just use the constructors, you have cargo, you have everything that you need, and you also have a cockpit to control the ship really nicely. So yes, it doesn't have any protection at the top, but that was the whole idea of it. It does again have the same slopes that I used in my earlier designs, like I did with every other ship, but I just created a little top, little hat, shall we say, to create this kind of different ship, this sort of like alien-esque design. So yes, those are the Annihilators and the other 3 ships that I've created. I might create a Decimator Mark II to perfect it a little bit, but for now I think I will stick with the Mark IV and the Super Annihilator, and also the Scavenger for mining valuable materials. So yes, that is going to be it for this video. I hope you have enjoyed. If you are interested in any of these ships, they are all available on the workshop. So if you want to visit, if you want to play this game, and if you're looking for a powerful ship, you can access any of these. Now, I don't recommend you using the first 2, because, well, this one has a bunch of mistakes, and this one, and both of these are outdated, and this one is just heavily over-engineered. Then we have the Mark III, and do excuse me for the lag. Mark III, well, it's great, it's outdated. What do I mean with that? Well, the repair bay here, it doesn't have a console, and I don't plan on adding anything, because, well, I already have the Mark IV, so what do I need to do to upgrade a previous Mark, right? So with this, it is completely updated, and it has everything you need, except for mining lasers, etc., but that's not a problem. And yeah, if you want to go really big, you can go for the Super Annihilator. Every ship that I've made adheres to the rule of maximum amount of each turret. So that means that if there are servers that do not allow more than a certain amount of turrets, of each turret per ship, then these should pass just nicely. The problem is, I think, if we were to check, yeah, the Super Annihilator might not be allowed due to its large size class. However, the Mark IV should be allowed because of its much smaller size class. Alright, so that is going to be it. I do want to show you a difference between the Mark II and the Mark I regarding size classes. So the Mark I has a size class of 6. This should not be allowed in like verified servers, I think. And then it went straight to 14. So yes, that just became a huge nightmare. Then I went all the way down to 3, then stuck with 4, and then eventually went back to 13, but that is obvious. So yes, that is going to be it for this video. I hope you have enjoyed, and I hope you are interested in having any of these ships. I do have a starter ship. I don't remember what it's called. I think it was... No, it wasn't that. I think it was the Explorer. Yeah. It was this ship. It's mainly it's not meant to be anything of note, but yeah, it's just meant for exploration, basic exploration, and it's also meant to be cheap. Well, decently cheap enough to move from the first 3 planets and move on to the rest of the galaxy. So yes, thank you all so very much for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe. And also let me know what you want to see, because I do want to do some different things. Also be sure to check out my Twitch channel, because I do prefer to stream. So that means that if you don't see a whole lot of YouTube videos, then the chance is decently high that I will be streaming by the time that you want to see videos. So yes, thank you all so very much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video. Till then, folks.